evolutionarily speaking, how we got to the point that we're at as a civilization is being good at building things. So I can imagine, like, intrinsically, all of us have this desire to be building stuff with our hands and, you know, creating, making. But throughout so much of our society, that's totally lost, whether like the skills themselves of building things are lost or just the actual opportunity to do it is lost because we're so busy on our telephones and working at desk jobs and I kind of have this track record of deciding I'm going to do something even if I don't really know what I'm doing and just going for it anyways, and it's worked out really well for me so far. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, so I've done a lot of design work before, and I've done a little bit of welding, and I kind of knew how the manufacturing process should go for something like this. So I started designing and kind of borrowing ideas from the different systems I'd seen that people had cobbled together, and eventually I got to my first prototype. You never think about where your heat's coming from when you're heating with propane or when you're heating with oil, right? It just shows up and it heats your house, and you don't have that like mental connection of this came out of the ground and used to be dead dinosaurs. It just happens. But when you're out cutting trees down in the woods and loading them into your stove and chopping them and moving them, like, you're fully connected to it. And that has a bunch of benefits, right? One, you get a ton of exercise, which is great. Two, you're spending a ton of time in the woods, like just actually being out there. And I think the ritual of going and getting your wood every year and hauling it in and letting it dry, and I think there's a lot of cool ritual to that, and you feel truly connected to it. One of the things I really love about the stove is you feel so connected to your heat source, you feel so connected to your food when you're cooking with it, and you know, you have to tend it periodically throughout the day, so it's, you know, attracting some of your attention, and it feels, you always feel really present when you're working on the stove. I think that a lot of people want to be more self-sufficient, and they want to lower their impact on the environment, and they want to have this daily ritual of feeding the stove and cooking food in the oven. We're living in this age of climate change where weather is getting more and more uncertain, and we have these big storms that cause power outages all the time, and we don't know what the price of oil is going to do over time. So the cool part about this stove is it gets rid of all those variables. I've gotten super interested in permaculture in the last several years, and one of the key tenets of permaculture is that something should serve multiple purposes. And for me, this stove is the perfect example of that. This takes the 3 appliances in your house that use the most fossil fuel, right? Like the boiler or the furnace that keeps your house warm, your stove that's typically run on propane, and your domestic hot water that's either grid electricity, which is pretty dirty, or, you know, natural gas or propane. It's serving all those 3 functions, and it's all in one, you know, convenient piece. None of the stoves like this that have existed in the past have been very efficient, and this one is really efficient in the way that it burns. There's kind of this primary combustion process and then a secondary combustion processes that takes all the gases that were generated in the very beginning combustion process and then reburns them. So none of that extra heat is lost, you know, just going up the chimney. I've worked for a number of companies that are really completely focused in on margins, and they've kind of started with this soul and this mission, and the financial piece crushes the reason why they're there doing business in the first place. And that just crushes my soul, you know? Building something physical out of steel on a small scale is just a really tough business to get into. What I want to get out of this experience isn't, a fat paycheck. What I want to get out of this experience is the satisfaction of building something that stands the test of time, and the satisfaction of knowing that I'm having this huge impact on people's lives and a huge impact on the environment. When people are using all their skills to the greatest extent that they can, and they feel like they're creating a lot of value and that they are serving a higher purpose, they sort of reach this state of what's called flow, where all the cylinders are firing right and they feel like they're fulfilling their greatest life's mission, basically. And so I've had a couple times in my life where I've felt that flow state, and once you feel that, you kind of always chase after that, right? So this is a part of that. But there's such this huge swath of our society that never even goes down that road, or never even, maybe even hears that this is a possibility, that you can like reach this higher state of feeling or flow. I think once you learn that failure is just learning, right? You're less concerned about failing, and because you're less concerned about failing, you're more likely to go after and chase something, and you're more likely to get what you really want. You're more likely to do the thing that you're really best suited to do. And there's so much value in that, both for yourself, right? For your own sense of self-worth and your own psyche, but also for all the people around you, right? Because when you're in this flow state, it just radiates off all around you, and people can feel that, and they feed off of it and build on it, and it's beautiful. I should be super clear in that I've had a ton of privilege, right? Like, just starting with the fact that I'm a white male gives me a huge leg up on anything I want to do. My family was always super supportive. I got an incredible education. I'm super duper lucky. I did a lot of reading on happiness psychology, and having that connectedness, like having a community that you feel connected with, is one super important thing to happiness. Feeling like you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself is a really important part of happiness. I want the company to be totally employee-owned. I want everyone to show up at the beginning of the day passionate about what they're doing, and I want them to reap the benefits of that. So I'd love to, sit down at lunch every day with my work team and eat a meal that's been cooked on the stove, and talk about things that are important to them, talk about what their aspirations are for the company, and I want them to feel like they truly have a stake in the success of the company. I want that work environment to feel like a family. I think a lot of people would see something like this that you have to be actively paying attention to as an inconvenience in comparison with a thermostat. It means, maybe some hard work, but some really satisfying hard work. I think that kind of your standard off-the-grid homestead type person really craves that. But what I've found over time is that there's a lot of people that are interested in it that are from this wide cross-section of society. To feel all that again, to feel the sore muscles from chopping wood, to spend the time out in the forest, that used to be our connection to survival, right? Like, that's the reason why people get such a sense of satisfaction out of seeing a well-stacked wood pile, is because it means they're going to survive the winter, right? There's nothing more, visceral and real than that.
So, you can hear audio and stuff? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I have to familiar myself with this entire spiel. I'm Elizabeth, and I made the thing that you just watched. At this point, you should just skip to Act 3 if you hopefully plan on watching the whole episode. Find out what an apple wassail is to some ultra cool farmers. Okay, then I have to say that in my March episode, you'll get to see Dwyer install one of his first prototypes. Oh yeah, because you just watched Dwyer for beta testing in a homestead with some interesting folks. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And then the next part is about Patreon. If you want to support me on Patreon, I'd be eternally grateful. For just a few dollars a month, you'll be able to learn and see more about these characters in exclusive content. Does that even make sense? I don't know. Andy LaDolce wrote the music for this episode. He literally wrote and recorded 4 songs in a couple weeks.
Oh my god, how did he do that?
I don't know. It's like amazing. So then my patrons are awesome. Oh, I know. You tell me what I'm supposed to say. Greg and Sherry Lucier, thank you so much. Pat Bakir, thank you so much. And yes, you were the very first one. Melissa Hotchkiss, Vincent Elversano, Sarah Hotchkiss as well, Jean Archibald, Lorraine Dreyer, Megan Hoffman, Lisa Flood, Caitlin and Kyle Ovenauer, RG, thank you very much. Casey Lucier, thank you, thank you, thank you. I got it?
I think so.
I remembered everybody. Okay, let me try something right now. Let's see. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Oh!